Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Combermerian Live. Tonight, we will be doing part two of our interview with Charlie Spice. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you, Hess, for inviting me again on your show. I was surprised to be invited the first time, and now here I am having a second interview. And I want to start by apologizing for not having my Combermerian shirt on. I looked everywhere for that shirt today, Hess, and I couldn't find it. I realized I had told my housekeeper to get rid of everything that I no longer wear, and I'm wondering if the Combermerian shirt got bundled with that when it was given away. So forgive me.
Well, you may go down in Bridgetown and see Ninja Man wearing your shirt now. All right. So let's pick up from where we left off. For those of you have watched part one, it would be wonderful if you haven't to do so after this one, and everything would be continuous. But Charlie had spoken about you getting out of Latvia and heading out and coming back to Barbados. So let's start from there, and you pick up the story, Charlie.
Well, I'm trying to remember exactly where we left off, and I'm very happy that you've chosen to do this show before dementia set in, because I would hate to be sounding like certain people in politics. Anyway, I came back to Barbados from Europe after that crazy situation, and my intention was to have a rest period, just to soak in what you only appreciate what Barbados has to offer when you go away from Barbados, and particularly for a long period of time, you appreciate what you left behind. And my aim was to just have as many sea baths as possible, and I had brought that young lady from Latvia with me, actually, and she of course became my girlfriend, and we were together for about 3 years. But here in Barbados presented a number of challenges for me, because by that time, everyone knew who Charlie Spice was, and that Charlie Spice was Charles Lewis, and Charles Lewis went to Combermere, and it became very difficult to fit back into society here. I have to say that, because Barbados society tends to be very unforgiving and very judgmental. So it was quite difficult for me. Even today, I can't go to a bank and borrow money to buy a house. I've got to pay cash for everything, because in my line of work over the years, banks are not allowed to do business with people who are in certain industries, and the sex industry is one of those industries. So it was quite hypocritical and quite interesting that bank managers who were my clients would have to refuse giving me a loan, but are quite able to do business with me. So that's part of the hypocrisy that I had to navigate through back in Barbados as well.
Wow. So what is the public's perception of Charlie Spice compared to the reality?
Most people know about me by reputation. They do not actually know me. There's an expression that your reputation can precede you sometimes, and that was certainly the case. And not knowing, people's view of someone in my business in the sex industry is that pimp they saw on programs in New York, someone with a broad rim hat and a leather jacket, a cane, and beating the crap out of women, forcing them to take drugs to do the work, and then they have to buy the drugs from them, and that is, television has created that type of understanding of my business, and yet I'm so far removed from that in terms of how I operate. But that is society's view, and I had to deal with that coming back to Barbados. Also, many times I would be invited to a function or a party, and as the moment I arrive, it would go deathly quiet, because husbands are wondering if I'm going to say something that I shouldn't say. They were previous clients of mine and wives that may have worked with me before, and now they're happily married and pillars of society, are hoping I don't say something to their husband. So it became very difficult to navigate society here for me. And it got to a point where I just stopped accepting invitations. And in some cases, people stopped giving me invitations to certain events as well. You know, it's in my position, I've always been privy to what was in people's closets, the skeletons in their closets, and it I don't, to be honest, I don't enjoy knowing all that information, because I got to know who was having affairs on the side. I got to know who was paying for prostitutes outside of their marriage. I got to know about who was privately, secretly gay, you know, because of who I have been and the discretion that I held. Many people had no difficulty confessing to me about the skeletons in their closets.
Wow. So how do you separate Charlie Spice from Charles Lewis? Or is there a separation?
There's no separation anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm more widely known as Charlie Spice than Charles Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people call out to me, you know, who remember me from back in the day. You know, Charles Lewis. Sometimes I don't even recognize my own name. I've gotten so familiar with the Charlie Spice moniker that was given to me when I was in Germany. And I don't know if we spoke about this in the last interview, but it was a German client who gave me that name. He suggested you should have a more sexy name than Charles Lewis. And he came up with Charlie Spice. And I don't know where he got it from, but right away I recognized that there was a lot of marketing flair within that name itself, and marketability as well. So I adopted the name, and today I'm more widely known as Charlie Spice. But yes, there is a separation, because I think Charlie Spice is the alter ego of Charles Lewis. Charlie Spice is the one who can do the things that Charles Lewis can only dream about, that Charles Lewis would be afraid to even try. So it actually helped me to have a split persona and an alter ego. So the Charlie Spice is a lot more confident. As a matter of fact, Charles Lewis probably wouldn't want to come on this show and talk openly.
Oh boy. But given all that perception, here is now you speak at you've been invited to speak at the University of the West Indies, and you've spoken at United Nations. So tell us about that, because these are prestigious places that want you to talk about sex trafficking and so on. So,
when I was in Eastern Europe, I had firsthand knowledge of many of the atrocities that befall people in the sex industry in terms of human trafficking and forced prostitution. I bore witness to that firsthand by virtue of the fact that I worked with the Russian mafia for so long. I mean, their recruitment was quite hostile. It was, they would actually, kidnap women to work and force women to work and force parents to surrender their daughters to work and give them a few dollars and say thank you very much. So I knew then that at some time in my tenure that I would want to start a non-profit organization dealing with these problems. And I also mentioned in the previous episode that I had a strong Christian upbringing, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to church every Sunday, and my grandmother making sure I never missed a Sunday or choir practice. And I think that held me in good stead over the years, where there were many boundaries I would not cross, many lines beyond which I wouldn't go because of that grounding. But it's a bit of a I don't know what the word is for that, but I'm saying I had grounding, but yet I turned out to be someone in the sex industry. So how can you say you've had Christian grounding, but here's where you are today? But anyway, it was always my intention to start a non-profit organization or an organization that would address the issues, the problems that are faced by people in the sex industry on a daily basis, including human trafficking, forced prostitution, child prostitution, uh, and also the stigma and stigmatization, of course. And I launched an organization called the Adult Industry Association, which is now represented by members from 30 countries around the world. And we came to the attention of the United Nations. And as a result of coming to the attention of the UN, I got invited to many roundtable discussions to talk about these issues in the industry, because the United Nations has got various divisions that address these issues and provide assistance and financial support where needed and so on. And I became a regular person attending these roundtable discussions, and also one of the professors at the university, she heard about all of the work that I was doing, and she wanted me to address her students at the University of the West Indies here at Cayfield campus. And I have to commend her for having that courage, because she got an awful lot of pushback because she invited me. And I remember the management of the university and many of the parents were up in arms against it, because they were thinking that my only reason for coming to talk to the students was to try to recruit some of the students to work for me in the sex industry. And I could understand that. And anyway, I had even the media and the press, they got wind of it and wanted to attend my first guest lecture at the universities. And I proudly admit now that it was the most daunting thing I'd ever done. I mean, I worked all over the world with the Russian mafia. I faced danger, life-threatening situations, and I was never more scared than when I stood in front of those students, especially with parents looking in, and the media on the outside, and members of management wanted to know what the hell is he going to say. And I had prepared my lecture, and when I stood before those kids, something said to me, put aside the paper and just talk. And I did that.
Okay.
2 weeks or 3 weeks of preparation just went out the window. And I started talking about, let's start from the beginning. I am Charles Lewis, but I'm also known as Charlie. And I talked about it, and the questions were flowing, and it was so impactful. It was so, there was so much academia in that. I surprised myself, because I have a superior knowledge and understanding not only of the sex industry, but how the sex industry impacts on education, how it impacts on religion, how it impacts on the economy, and the social structure and so on, the family. And I was able to demonstrate 35 years of being in the industry, and also being very conscious about what's going on in life, and so it was a very successful lecture. I mean, I actually got, I'm not sure they were all standing, but it was a hell of an ovation when I was finished. And that started what became an 8 or 9 year period of doing guest lectures every year at the university.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That is very good.
So my topic is the global sex trade and the impact that it has on the sustainability of tourism to the tourism management studies students. I also guest lecture to the sociology students as well.
Okay.
And the sex trade and tourism are inextricably linked. There's no separation.
Yeah.
Because wherever there's successful tourism, there's a forgive the pun, but there's a penetration of commercial sexual activity.
Yeah.
And Barbados, being a mature and successful tourism product, it has its share probably more than its share of commercial sexual activity, where women come from all over the world to Barbados to engage in, to ply their trade and to take advantage of the very, the very wealthy client who tends to come to Barbados on a yearly basis.
Okay. So, in that same vein, how you provide some insight into the issue of strip clubs in Barbados hiring these foreign ladies?
Strip clubs are, first of all, they are a legal entity. They're registered. They register for VAT. They obviously pay their taxes. The only gray area back then, and to some extent now, is girls from other countries coming and going on the stage, performing and making money.
Okay.
Because to do that legally, there's a process to be, you've got to go through a process, and no one goes through that process. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry who, well, not, let me rephrase that. Many of the people who are charged with the responsibility of policing commercial sexual activity or prostitution in Barbados, many of them end up in the strip clubs and have a good time. I have met many of the police officers and immigration officers and politicians in strip clubs in Barbados, so nobody really cares. But at one point, I felt that it was such a waste of taxpayers' money for the government to, for the police and the immigration to be carrying out investigations, arresting prostitutes or strippers who work in clubs, detaining them, feeding them, and then deporting them, and then a month later, the same girls are back in Barbados, back on the stage again. I thought it was a farce, and it still is. So I tried to get the government to understand that there was a need to regulate that industry, and similarly to the way it's done in St. Martin, which is Dutch, by the way, and as you all would know, and they actually charge girls a fee to come into St. Martin to work as a dancer, and there's nothing illegal about that.
Okay.
What may or may not be legal is prostitution, but to come in to work as a dancer, there's nothing illegal about that. And at that time, the government in St. Martin was generating in excess of 10 million guilders a year from that alone.
Wow.
And then the strip clubs are under certain licensing classification, and they too pay a slightly higher fee. And we could have followed the same example here, because it's such a waste of taxpayers' money to be going through all of that, and then the girls come back here a month later. I remember talking to a lady who was about to be deported, and she said to me, "Don't worry about me, I'll be back in a month." And she was back in a month.
Wow.
So I tried to get it regulated, and that was a lot of that was all over the press, and I tried to rally the club owners together, but that was not successful. There's a lack of coming together in that industry.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So what is your vision and hopes for the association in Barbados then?
Well, to see some measures put in place to protect people in this industry. I think even the women on Bush Hill, there should be some measure of protection for them, because they are exposed to all types of criminality and their health issues that have to be managed. So once you put measures in place and you regulate, is not a word that people like to hear, but some degree of regulation, so that you address all these issues and you mitigate the impact of the industry on society. And that is what I would love to see at some point in time. And not only that, the government can make a hell of a lot of money from it, as a matter of fact, because, I mean, if the St. Martin government is making in excess of 10 million guilders, that is money we should be making instead of spending to police something that will never go away.
Yeah. I know there's certain parts of Europe that, the sex industry is regulated, and the girls have to go get tested, on a regular basis. They pay money to the government as taxes and so on. So it's something that it's never going to go away. So why hide your head in the sand about it, right? And just regulate it properly.
Absolutely. And I've seen the industry evolved over the years, where before you would only see the foreign girls from Guyana and Trinidad and Jamaica and elsewhere going on the stages. Now I see local girls working as strippers in the clubs, and they're not afraid to admit that this is what they do. It's become so
Passe.
normal now.
Yeah.
When husbands and boyfriends can say to their wives and girlfriends, "We're going to the strip club this weekend." Wives go to the strip club this weekend
Wow.
because
Wow,
there's even I've even seen a massive shift in cultural norms here in terms of even sexuality, because what was frowned upon years ago when you saw someone or guys who were gay or women, now it's so normal now. Nobody bothers anymore. It's become a very inclusive society. It's become more inclusive, although it's not an official inclusiveness. It's unofficial. It's de facto, because nobody bothers about it anymore.
Yeah. So one of our viewers just put a thing and says, "Isn't that the same situation with Aruba's sex industry? In Aruba, health tests are vital."
Yes.
So
absolutely. Absolutely. Once you manage it, you can deal with it. The issues that come from the health issues and the criminality issues, and this is what I've been pushing for years. But you see, there's a problem here where every politician off the air would admit that what I'm saying makes sense.
Yeah.
But they would never go on a podium and say that, because it is not politically expedient.
Yes.
Yeah. They are worried about any lashback. They're worried about the constituents and the reaction and so on. And of course, they're worried about the church.
Yes.
So that is the height of hypocrisy as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I think hypocrisy is getting in the way of good governance in many instances, not only in the sex industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And common sense.
Yes, remember when they were trying to introduce the breathalyzer test here in Barbados, and every politician and policeman said, "No, we don't want this here." You know why? Because they all drink and drive.
Some of them would probably be the first to be pulled over. Oh boy.
Yeah, so one of my biggest pet peeves, I detest hypocrisy. I have no time for it.
Yes, of course. Now, we were talking about the ladies of Boshell. Speaking of that, one of our famous people from there is Natalie, and you had been her political, we want to say, consultant when she was putting her hat into the ring in elections. So can you delve into that a little bit for us, please?
Yes. Okay. I was afraid you were going to get to this part. Okay, let's go for it. Hess. I did not know anything about Natalie at the time I made the decision to represent her as her election campaign manager. I knew nothing about her. I did not know about the 44,000 followers she had on Instagram and how crazy her videos were. I didn't know anything about Natalie. I never had a need to know about Natalie because, I would never go to Bushel to try to recruit girls for my very wealthy clients. So I'm not saying that in a condescending way. Don't get me wrong, because I accept everyone in the industry at whatever level. But I had heard from the media that this prostitute from Bushel was running for Bridgetown, and I had seen all of the ridicule and criticisms that she was enduring, and as the founder and president of the Adult Industry Association, it is my responsibility to represent anyone in the industry with any challenges that they are having. And I felt a burning desire to step in the ring and say, "Look, Natalie, I don't know you, but let me represent you."
Okay.
Because I felt that every person has the right to run as long as they're not a convicted criminal, and even a prostitute. And I felt, you know what, I'm going to represent you because you're one of us. And I made a decision, and I called her. Someone gave me her number. I called her. I never met Natalie before. After I called her, I said to Natalie, I would like to represent you, and this is who I am, and blah, blah. And she'd heard about me, and Natalie said to me, first thing, I ain't got no so-and-so money to pay you. She didn't use the word so-and-so, all right? She used other words. Right? And I said, no, Natalie, I don't want you to pay me anything. I'm duty bound to represent you. And I don't like the kind of pressure you're getting. Let me represent you. And I never thought at any time that Natalie would win, But I felt there was a need to prove a point that even a prostitute can run, and I was going to give her the best possible chance. And I also felt that Natalie would get a lot of sympathy votes. And my strategy was to get her enough sympathy votes that it would be considered by one of the parties that they would want her to come over on their side and bring the advantage over, and then she could negotiate for some opportunity to get herself off the streets.
Yeah.
That was my plan. And I told Natalie that don't ever think of winning. You can't win. But this is what I want to happen, and this is what can happen. You are going to, because, and so said, so happened. We had a call from a certain politician offering Natalie to come over and bring whatever sympathy vote she had, because Natalie was getting a lot of mileage. I would walk through Bridgetown with Natalie, and people would be coming up and giving Natalie money in the streets. Wow. All the money was going right here with Natalie. And I'm saying, Natalie, that is campaign money. We've got to use that money to fund your campaign. Anyway, the proposal to Natalie was drop out the race and come over on our side, and in the event that we win, we will make sure that you have a position, because she had a lot of popularity in the city.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had the sympathy that I had imagined they would have for her.
Yeah.
And they respected her courage. And she, but anyway, Natalie said, no, I am this and that, giving up this race because I know I could win. And when I was galloping around the garrison on my back for years, they did not help me. So I am not. Natalie refused. Natalie was not manageable. I couldn't manage her. And boy, did I get a musing from Natalie when I decided to quit as her campaign manager. It's just, I had got so much publicity for Natalie as far as Russia and other parts of Europe, where magazines and newspapers did stories about this prostitute in Barbados.
Oh wow!
And a TV production company in New York contacted me and said, look, we want to come to Barbados and do a story about Natalie and her life. And I started to see how I could leverage all of this to her advantage, as well as mine, as well as the association's advantage. Okay, because there was a lot of PR to be had from this. And they came down and they got ready to the setup, and Natalie would not show up for the interview.
Wow.
She, we did do 1 or 2 interviews with local productions here, but for the international one, she just didn't have the confidence that she could handle that sort of publicity, and it was quite embarrassing because they flew here and then they turned around and said to me, "Okay, Charlie, well, if she doesn't want to do it, why don't we do a story about you managing her?" And they eventually did a whole interview with me, and I don't even know if it got published, to be honest. But, that was my short-lived experience in
the political arena.
In Barbados, and I have no regrets about doing it. People talk all kinds of nonsense about me, Somebody even said I was trying to take advantage of Natalie and get her to work for me. And as a matter of fact, I remember when I said to Natalie, you have to stop working. While you're doing this campaign, you cannot be working at Bush Hill. I will give you money every week, so you don't have to go to Bush Hill. And I started to give Natalie money every week. And still, she would not heed to the advice that I'd given her. So I had to step down, and unfortunately, that was the end of my my career in politics in Barbados. And even today, people still say to me that I should run as an independent because I'm so popular and so on. But it is not. It is not something that I have any interest in.
Okay. Well, you never say never. One never knows, right? Um, all right. So let's move on and talk about, because you had spoken about previously being married, and you were living in Switzerland, right? So let's delve into that aspect of your life. Can you shed some light into that?
I met my ex-wife when she was at university in Berlin, Germany.
What nationality was she?
South Korean.
Okay, good.
Yes, but she was adopted by a white Swiss family when she was a toddler, and was living in Switzerland, and came to Berlin, Germany, to go to university. And while going to university, she was working as a nanny for two doctors. And I was working in a club very close to where she was living, and she came into the club one night in tears,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see something was wrong. Obviously, it was all dark and the lights were flashing. Every time the light flashed on her, I could see she was very upset. And I went over to her and I said, "What's wrong?" And the way she reacted, I knew there and then that someone had assaulted her physically, certainly, and perhaps sexually.
Oh,
And it turned out that, well, she refused to talk to me, but I knew something was wrong. And I said, "Look, when I'm finished work, I will make sure that you get home safely," and so on. And 10 minutes later, this guy walked into the club. And when she looked at that guy, he looked at her. I knew that that was the guy
okay.
who had assaulted her in some way.
Yeah, you probably could see the fear in her face, right?
Correct. And so I got him thrown out of the club right away. And she then realized that I was truly on her side. And that's how we met. I took her home that night. And every day after that, she became like a project to me, because I was never attracted to someone like her. I mean, I say that, I hesitate to say this, but that's the truth. But as I got to know her, and and super intelligent, spoke 2 or 3 languages, and we got closer, and I was at the height of my having fun, partying, working in clubs, and doing my business in the adult industry. I had no time to settle down, and but she attached herself to me because I was like her protector, I suppose. And I remember one day we were looking to raise funds for an event. Now, my ex-wife was someone who hardly spoke. She would only speak when spoken to, for the most part, and had this very cultured way,
Mm-hmm.
an Oriental culture, and we're talking about how we're going to raise this 25,000 Deutschmarks. At the time, it was Deutschmarks for this event. We were going to bring over a group from the United States to perform in Berlin, and how are we going to raise this money now? And this voice from nowhere came. I can get that money for you. I'm like, my friend Smiley said, "Is that Sandrine who said that?" Because he probably spoke, I'm like,
Yeah.
turned out that's when I found out that she was from a very wealthy family, and
Mm-hmm.
and she had an investment portfolio. She called and got her stock or investment broker to sell some shares or whatever, and by Tuesday the next week, I had 25,000 Deutschmarks.
Well,
And the thing is, we had already developed a relationship, so it wasn't money attracted
mm-hmm.
me to her in the beginning. I did not know that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And when I found out afterwards, well, I was definitely not going to let her get away from me then. But it was not the reason that I got involved in the first place,
Yeah.
And anyway, we got together, and she got pregnant. I thought I should do the honorable thing, and we got married. But I was not ready for marriage. And I would say now to anyone, someone getting pregnant, a woman getting pregnant is not a reason to get married.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should get married when you're compatible and you're the right you're the right fit and so on, and everyone has got the right level of feelings for each other, not just because someone got pregnant. Well, the woman got pregnant, and that was the reason. And we were together for 4 years. We've got 2 sons, and well, I'm divorced now, and it's been a hell of an emotional education for me.
Okay.
Because I was torn between my lifestyle, my choices to work in industry, and settling down. And unfortunately, my life choices won over my desire to settle into a relationship, into a marriage.
Okay. How old are your sons now?
My sons are 33 years old now. 32.
Wow.
Yes, a twin.
Wow. So there's a twin Charlie Spices running around the place, huh?
Yeah, and they're good-looking boys, and I hope they don't think that they have better luck with women than I had when they were my age, because that is not possible.
Speaking of that, how do you handle personal relationships nowadays with you being who you are? I mean, that's a lot of pressure. Obviously.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's near impossible for someone like me to have an organic relationship that becomes successful, because whenever I'm so well known for who I am and what I do, that when I meet a woman, she probably already knows who I am. And if not, the moment I go to the bathroom and come back, someone will say to her, "Do you know who you're talking to?"
Yeah.
And I have to defend my integrity with her to start with. I've got to prove to her that I'm not interested in her for recruitment purposes or for any nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And once I get over that, then I've got to defend myself against her family and friends, perception of me, and society at large. So it's just a constant struggle. And
wow.
I just gave up on that. It's not not interested anymore. And then of course, even there are times when I had overcome all of that adversity and persevered and entered into relationships, and the reality of my life and my choices would then become the reason it would, because in some cases they try to change me or get me out of what I'm doing. That will never work. And also, to how does a woman trust a man who works with hundreds of women all over the world who are very beautiful and would all jump into bed with me just to get a booking? How do you trust a man like that? I'm not saying that I would, if I made every time I made a commitment to a relationship, I was actually committed to a relationship, but it is impossible for a woman to actually trust that. And
yeah.
The time, because my life is constantly filled with very beautiful women and having an intimate, not sexual, but an intimate relationship with them, where I have to get into their head. They've got to get into mine because we're working together, and I've got to know exactly what they're about. And in some cases, I have to know their level of. I need to know more things about them than the average man would know.
Yeah. Well, there's a saying about the elephant in the room. You are the elephant in the room. You understand? So that's what happens with them.
So you mean you've also noticed that I've gained some weight? Yes.
I did not call you an elephant.
Okay, I have gained some weight, and I would love to get rid of it. Yeah. I'll take it.
Just your persona, your reputation. You know what I mean? It is
correct.
When you walk, there goes Charlie Spice. That's what everybody says.
I've been called worse than that, Hess, in my life, so that's okay. I'll take it. So it presents a challenge to me in relationships, and I just gave up on that. Also, now, to be honest, this is going to sound a bit harsh, but it's so true. I would prefer to pay for the company of a woman than go to a bar and organically say, "Hi, I'm Charles, what's your name?" and go through all that nonsense. It sounds terrible, but that is my reality. I mean, If I can sell it, I can buy it, can't I?
I guess so. Hey, whatever floats your boat, my brother. You know, whatever makes you happy. Hey, once you're not hurting somebody, it's your life. Live it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. They I hope the audience is getting what they expected out of this this interview. They probably did not know what to expect.
Yes, of course not. But
I did not know what to expect actually from this. I am. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you have lived what you would call a colorful life, right? And you're not, quote unquote, a regular Tom, Dick, and Harry. You are a unique individual, and people have to be able to handle that. Some people can't. There's a lot of in your position, probably you get a lot of hatred, a lot of envy, a lot of jealousy, because of who you are. So you have broad shoulders, so you can take it. I know that as your friend, right?
I have had a lot of ridicule from women in society here in Barbados and elsewhere, where they convinced them they had convinced themselves that they hated me because of what I represent, and thought that their husband might have been a client of mine at some point. That fuels the hatred, right? And I have lived to see women who hated me because they thought that their husbands were my clients. They invited me to. I remember being invited to a meeting with about 15 women from the west coast of Barbados, very wealthy women who hated me and never wanted anything to do with me, and called me to a meeting. So I expect now to get shot at this meeting. But I went, I have courage. I went to the meeting, and they said to me, to cut a long story short, you've been facilitating our husbands and our boyfriends for many years, Charlie. I think it's time that you bring in some men for us.
What?
Oh yes. Why are you not bringing in men so that women of substance can have a good time too? And that is when I started to offer that service, where women could call on me to introduce them to men to have a good time, to go for dinner, to travel, whatever. And today I probably have, I would say that represents about 5% or less than 5% of my business. But yes, so those were the same women who hated me, Hess. Now that is now hypocrisy. They don't have a problem with what I do. Never did. They have a problem that I may be facilitating their husbands. They don't have a problem with it per se. You see, and this is hypocrisy at the highest level again.
Wow.
Okay. And I've also had situations where women would be talking about Charlie Spice, and they would say, I could never have anything to do with Charlie Spice. I could never have sex with Charlie Spice.
Wow.
I have lived to see some of those women call me, Charlie, you don't know me, but I am so and so, and blah blah blah. You might know who I am, but I've always had a fantasy to go to bed with you, but not in Barbados. Can we go to St. Lucia or Antigua? I'll pay for the ticket.
Wow.
Let me tell you, Hess, I accepted wholeheartedly, because that was my way of getting back at them for talking nonsense about me over the years.
Wow.
And I wanted to make sure that I had something on them, so they can't talk about me anymore. Now you will not talk about me anymore.
Oh my goodness, huh?
I've seen it all. I've seen it all.
Wow. Has the name Spice, Charlie Spice, using that spice, got you into trouble? Because there's something out there saying that Penthouse magazine stated that Spice was their trademark, and that that you might cease and desist from using that. Can we delve into that a little bit?
Yes, you've done your research, Hess. You're bringing up a blast from the past. The Playboy owned an adult channel called the Spice Channel, And because my name became Charlie Spice, I started to brand Spice or Charlie Spice, and and they got their attorneys to write to me and wanted me to cease and desist from using that name Spice, because it was an infringement on their proprietary software, proprietary productions, etc.
Mhm.
And they wanted to sue me for, I don't remember, there was something I was doing
Wow.
that had the potential to be global, and they 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 started to take legal action against me for $4 million US.
Wow.
And I thought that, the fact that Penthouse is going to take legal action against me for 4 million is something that I could leverage and market and boost my publicity. So I decided to let all the newspapers around the world know about this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Charlie. I remember the incident. It was actually a platform that you had developed
Yeah.
as a portfolio for people to put like their CVs and stuff on. It was a website, uh,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
they got a hold of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so I thought, well, how many people from Barbados are sued by Penthouse, by Playboy? I mean, come on, this means something, Let me see what I can get out of this.
Well, hey, well, obviously, that was a very spicy situation.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Obviously, you haven't ceased and desisted, so you still have the name. It's
Oh, of course. But I think, as long as I am not doing anything that could become global, and so they don't really care. And besides, I'm all the way in Barbados. They don't really care about this small fry down there,
Yeah.
But and it's interesting. I have actually worked with some of the Playboy bunnies, where I have I've connected them to some very wealthy clients, and so it's we're all interconnected at the end of the day, So I don't when I just sort of kept it quiet for a while, they just disappeared, and it was I heard no more about it.
Okay. Cool. Now I know a year or so ago on your birthday, you had gotten into an accident, a very serious accident in Barbados. Can you delve into that a little bit and let us know what happened?
Yes, I was driving on Bourbon Road in St. Lucie, and there were four guys, young guys between 18 and 21, I think. They had guns, ammunition, and drugs in the car. The driver did not have a driver's license. There was no insurance. I believe they had stolen the car, and they were being chased by the police. So they tried to navigate or negotiate a bend at high speed and lost control and came directly at me. I was able to avoid a head-on collision, but they got me on the right side and tore everything from the right side. I had 2 cracked ribs, hematoma of my kidney, and a lot of trauma on my right side. So
Wow.
I remember when the impact happened. An accident happens so quickly. You're talking seconds. Okay, there's no time for reaction. And I remember hearing bells, in my ear. I remember feeling it was so surreal. It was an out of body experience, and I stayed in the car. I did not move. I was waiting to feel pain somewhere to know where I was injured. So I was waiting for my body to tell me where I'm hurt.
Yeah.
and I had severe pressure on my right side and my hip. Oh Jesus, Hess, I thought my hip was broken.
Wow.
And thank God nothing was broken, but it was really heavily impacted, and lots of trauma and tissue, muscle and tissue damage. and the hematoma of the kidney. Hematoma of the kidney is an impact on the kidney where you've got bruised blood in your kidneys.
Wow.
So you're gonna when you go to the bathroom, you will actually
You're gonna pee blood. Yeah,
right. That's right. And two cracked ribs, which I could hardly breathe or cough.
Oh.
I stayed in the car until the ambulance came, and we went off to the hospital. I had a passenger in the car. This is a Polish lady who came to Barbados on holiday for 6 to 8 weeks, and we met and started hanging out, and and there's always a woman in the story, that has by now. She had a concussion, and
Wow.
she had a cut on the inside of her leg, and it was bleeding profusely, and it was a mess.
Wow.
So that car hit me, spun out of control, flipped. The driver got his arm broken, and two guys got out and ran. Anyway, the police eventually caught all of them, and they were prosecuted, and that was the end. I never heard anything about them after. I never spoke to them, never saw them. I don't know what's going on with them right now.
Wow.
And so I'm lucky to be here having this interview with you, Hess.
When you usually have an accident, do you look at life differently now, from that perspective, that you could have lost it just like that?
There's what is that expression when you go to war and you come back and you suffer from that? What is that called?
Shell shock. You're shell shock.
Shell shock, and yes, of course. Every time I go wrong a similar
PTSD. They call it PTSD.
Yeah, Charlie, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was about to say it's called post-traumatic shock syndrome.
Yeah, PTSD. Yeah.
Yes. Post-traumatic.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, or stress. Yes. Every time I go around a similar bend, I'm always expecting a car to come at me out of control.
Wow.
So you never get over it, to be honest. And then it's made me drive a lot more. I'm a lot more careful when I drive now. And so there's a lasting impact on you when you have any type of accident. And also too, I suppose having a near-death experience like that, you focus on everything to do with health and living a good life, and not worrying about the things you're worried about before. And so yes, it did have an impact on me, and I'm a lot more conscious about things like that are more pertaining to my health and my well-being than before, because I was quite carefree over the years, taking lots of crazy chances. And
Okay, so you're fully recovered 100%. Your kidneys all right, etc. Right?
I'm fully recovered from the accident, and the car was totally written off, by the way. The insurance paid me out, and I'm yet to go back to the UK to replace that vehicle. I've been leasing a vehicle since then. Not my ideal choice of a vehicle. I mean, some people. I went to Sandy Lane recently for a booking, and the staff at Sandy Lane saw this car come in, and they wondered, who the hell is this? And then I rolled the window down. I said, "You don't recognize me?" He said, "No, I'm not in that car."
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's good. But I'm glad that you were fully recovered and all is well. That's good. Let's talk about your two children that you have in Barbados, Zeus and Apollo. Can we bring up Zeus and Apollo, his two children here in Barbados?
You just scared me. I really thought that something was coming back to haunt me. And you said my two children in Barbados. I was like,
there are your two kids.
Why wait so late to mention my name?
I want to throw you a curveball. I wanted you to say, well, I got two children in Orleans or something.
I was going to the beach in Spikestown one day, and I saw these two puppies walking without a lead, so obediently behind this guy. And I was thinking, is he crazy? Those dogs could just run across the road. Those puppies, because they were only 13 weeks old at the time. I said he must be crazy. So I went ahead and pulled over. I came back. I said, brother, are you not worried that these puppies will run across the road? He said they're not going to go anywhere. I said, oh, he said they're not going to go anywhere. And then anyway, it turned out that he's a dog breeder, and I really liked the two puppies, and I was going to take. I said I'll take one, and I went to his house, and I chose Zeus. Zeus is the brindle one, and Apollo is the dark one. Mm-hmm. And I gave them they already had those names. Sorry, and so I was going to take Zeus. I only wanted one dog, and I don't know why I got a dog, to be honest, but I like dogs, and I travel so often. I felt it's stupid for me to get a dog because who's going to take care of my dog when I'm gone? Mm-hmm. Anyway, my heart got reached out to Zeus, and I made arrangements, and I went to the bank, got some cash, and I paid for it, and it was bloody expensive. I tell you, I paid over $2,000 for that dog right there on the spot. Yeah? That would teach me to go to the beach in Spikestown again. Anyway, so as I was taking Zeus away, Apollo looked at me. Apollo looked at me like, you can't be serious. You can't take my brother and not me. You crazy or what? I could see that on his face. And I said, oh, shoot, no. I got to take this. I can't leave this dog. I felt I'm feeling guilty, you know. I went to the bank and got another $2,500, and took both dogs, both puppies, and they've been with me ever since. Now this is almost 3 years, and they've turned out to be the most. These dogs eat so much. They're the most expensive thing outside of children. Let me tell you. Within 2 days of having those dogs, I bought dog beds. I bought this. I bought that. I bought this. I was up at $300-400 before the dogs even got settled in my place. Then the vet, and then these dogs eat, and they eat so much food. They're huge. They're half Great Dane and half French Mastiff. Okay. So I've given they've had the best of everything, the best of medical care, vet care, and food and protein food, and they turned out to be very good guard dogs. My dogs are so vicious, and I've purposely not socialized them. So they don't like people, they don't like dogs, they don't like cats, they don't like children. Dogs are crazy.
Well, shows you have a soft spot in your heart after all.
Absolutely. I've got to stop that nonsense. It costs me too much money to have a soft spot in my, it's very expensive soft spot to have.
Well, my man, it's been an hour we've been speaking already, Wow. What would you want to leave the audience with in terms of, who and what Charlie Spice is all about now, and your future plans?
I do not expect people to embrace my lifestyle, my choices, my work. Mm-hmm. But there's a need to be more inclusive in life. Mm-hmm. And I think that don't be judgmental before you know someone.
Definitely.
And I've suffered that for many, many years, and still do today. And I've been fortunate that I've come out on the other side where I am so financially and psychologically independent and emotionally independent that I am one of the best survival stories from people in my industry, okay? And to the point where I want to give a lot back. But I want to say to people, it's time to stop this judgmental attitude, because, at the end of the day, this world is for everyone, and we've got to be a bit more inclusive. I also want to say that I'm not here on this show to glorify my industry, glorify what I do. I'm just here to talk about what I do and share my life. You know, and I hope that people can go away from this with some type of benefit. Not that they're going to go become a prostitute tomorrow or a stripper, but you know, that they can see that I'm someone that you can have a conversation with, you can have a talk with. I'm as normal as they come, you know, and certainly I guarantee you a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, most definitely so. You know, you are a unique, you're a unique person, and keep being who you are, my friend. Keep being who you are.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time, and thank you again. And as always, up and on, my brother.
Up and on.
All right, brother man.
Okay.
How do you think that went?
I